Hello YouTube, my name is Nye. You joined me in the Finale Guitar Shop in Sheffield. You are watching Folk Friend, your one-stop shop for Celtic backing guitar tutorials. It's nice to say these words again. I haven't made any videos for a little while because I've been very busy opening a shop and writing a book. I have finally finished the book now, which is called The Beginner's Guide to Celtic DADGAD Accompaniment. It's basically a complete guide to DADGAD accompaniment for Irish, Scottish, Welsh tunes. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you, for complete beginners, how you can start out accompanying tunes by ear. This technique will work for tunes that you don't necessarily know. I don't think that you really need to have heard a tune before in order to be able to accompany it, but it is really important that you get used to understanding the kind of harmonic structure of Celtic tunes and listening out at least once through the tune in order to work out where your main chords go before you start playing along. It's really easy to accompany tunes in the key of D in DADGAD. I do cover in the book other keys, but you'll find D is the easiest one. So a D chord is very simple. It's just your index finger, your pointing finger, goes on the second fret of the third string from the top. And when I say the top, I mean the top pitch, not the top vertically. So that is going to be your D chord. You can play all the strings because you've got a big old D bass note at the bottom. Another chord which you're going to need a lot when playing in the key of D is A. So for an A chord, you can just take that finger and move it down one string. And what you want now is not to have a D bass note, but to have an A bass note instead. So when you play this chord, miss off the bottom string and just go from there. You can also, if you've got long thumbs like me, you can actually loop your thumb around the back and mute the bottom string, and that means when your strumming is enthusiastic, if you hit the bottom string by mistake, it's not going to make a noise, because if that D string creeps into your A chord, it will really muddy up the harmony and not sound very good. So that's your two main chords, D and A. There's also a G chord which you'll need, and I'm going to show you a really useful shape for this. You get your middle finger, you put it on the 5th fret of the bottom string, you put your ring finger on the 5th fret of the string next door, then you miss out the D string that's next to that, and then you put your index finger on the 4th, and that gives you this, which is a really nice G major chord. The good thing with this shape is you can slide it anywhere, and I've made a whole video about how to use that, which you can find in the corner of the screen, so that's definitely one to have a look at after this clip. So our three main chords, we've got D, G and A. Now I'm going to give each of those chords a number. If you think of the scale of D major, D is our root note, so that's going to be note number 1. And if we just go through the scale, we've got D, number 2 would be E, number 3 would be F sharp, number 4 is G, and number 5 is A. So I'm going to call them chords 1, 4 and 5. D is 1, G is 4 and A is 5. As long as you know what key you're in, and as long as you can number your chords, it's very easy to work out the order that they're going to come in a Celtic tune, because there are some really simple rules that pretty much apply to all Celtic music. The first rule is that chord 1 goes at the beginning and chord 1 goes at the end, and that's so that your listener knows where home is. Your ear can only interpret a tune if it knows what it's interpreting it relative to, so you have to tell it at the beginning what its home chord is. The second rule of folk backing is that every 7th time your foot taps, there is always going to be chord 5. So if I'm going along with a tune in D, I've definitely got D at the beginning, tap, 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 A, D, tap, 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 A, D. The second time you get to that A chord, it always comes back to chord 1. So the first 7th foot tap is going to be chord 5, and the second time you get to it, you play 1 tap of chord 5 and then 1 tap of chord 1. And that is true for pretty much every single folk tune, more or less. Let's have a look at a tune called The Maid Behind The Bar. You can find a free play-along video for that by clicking the little link in the corner of the screen. I suggest get that open in another tab, and then everything that we look at in this video you'll be able to practice by jamming along with the tune loop in that video. So the tune starts out like that. That's my first 4 foot taps. Like that. Now I know the first 2 taps are going to be D to tell my listener where home is. If you want, you can just do this with straight strums, like. After that, we don't know what's going to happen next. Between foot taps 2 and 7 is no man's land. What we're listening out for is any section where it needs chord 4. The best way I can describe chord 4 sections is they sound like the tune has moved away. So in this tune, there's a little bit there where it sounds like it says something else. If it was a story, it's like, I was walking to the post office, it was a sunny day, and then something happens, it's like, but on the way I fell over and dropped all my parcels. You know, that's the bit where something changes. I'm not going to go into the scientific explanation for why that is. There is one, and you can find it in the book. I'm not going to talk about it here. It's much easier just to listen to a tune, and when you feel like it moves and it says something separate from what it started out with, that's where chord 4 goes. So we've got 4 taps of chord 1, then something changes. That takes up taps 5 and 6, and then we get to the 7th foot tap, so we're going to put chord 5 there. Like that. The second line of the tune is going to do exactly the same thing, except that now, when we get to the chord 5, it's not going to do 2 taps worth of chord 5, it's just going to do 1, and then it's going to go back to chord 1. So that will sound like this. There you go, something like that. That we've just played is one complete A part, and most Celtic tunes have an A part and a B part. Each part is 8 bars long, there's 2 foot taps in each bar, and then what happens when you get to the end of the A part is it repeats. So it'll be exactly the same thing again, all the way through. What's going to happen now is the tune is going to progress onto the B part. The harmonic structure of the B part is not necessarily the same, but the rules do apply to it. It'll probably start on chord 1, it'll always have chord 5 on every 7th foot tap, and it'll go from chord 5 back to chord 1 to mark the ends of the section. So again, all you do is you listen out to the B part for where chord 4 goes. B parts, it's easy to spot when they begin, because almost always the melody will rise in pitch. So the first part was going, and the B part, when you get to that, is going to jump up and go. So it's in an upper octave compared to the first one. Let's have a little listen to the B part, and we'll see if we can pick out where the chords go. So it starts on chord 1. Then something else happens. Then we've got the 7th foot tap. Like that. So it really isn't rocket science. These kind of simple rules apply to most tunes, and you can take those and quite quickly work out by ear what the correct chords will be. Once you've got your head around these kind of simple rules, you can apply these to major Celtic tunes in any key. There's also Mixolydian tunes which sound kind of bluesy, and minor type tunes which we'll go into in future videos. But for any major sounding tune, these rules will apply. Chord 1 goes at the beginning and the end, chord 5 goes on every 7th foot tap, you stay on it for 2 taps the first time you get to it, and you come back to chord 1 the second time because you're ending a section. Lastly, chord 4 goes wherever the tune feels like it's moved away. This applies to reels, jigs and polkas. It doesn't apply quite so readily to slip jigs. Slip jigs often will end on chord 5. We'll go into that in future videos, that's covered in later chapters of the book. But I just want to tell you about if you were doing a different tune in the key of G. So let's say we're in the key of G. Now our chord 1 is G, so you just go through the alphabet. G, A, B, C would be chord 4, and D would be chord 5. So if this tune were in the key of G, you'd have G at the beginning, you'd have D on your 7th foot taps, and if there was any sections where the tune felt like it moved away, then you'd have C there. So it's really simple once you know about this kind of basic bit of theory, just to apply it to any tune in a major key. Next week I'm going to be having a look at the Kesh jig, which is covered in another chapter of my forthcoming book. You can currently get the book in ebook format by clicking in the corner of the screen, and you can also find it linked there on Amazon as a paperback as well. So please do go and check it out. I'm sure you'll find it helpful if you're just starting out in the world of DADGAD. And subscribe to Folk Friend if you haven't already to get all my free videos straight to your inbox. If you want all my videos as well, go on folkfriend.co.uk, click the videos tab, and you'll find hundreds of videos just like this, covering all sorts of useful folky guitar stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Call in for Gnarly Guitar if you're in the area, and if not, I'll see you next weekend for another video.